drafting worldwide, wide. Welcome back to the Revit Garage project. Today we're going to talk a little bit about setting up our foundation. So what I really wanted to start with was how our foundation looks with our upper wall. So right now we do not have anything drawn for a foundation. We only have this upper wall that's represented in blue, our stud wall. So the point that I wanted to really show you is how this interacts with our foundation. So whenever I zoom in on this, I can see that this green layer, that represents my OSB, and it's going to stretch past the foundation. A lot of people will take this OSB and have it flush with the block. I like to have it out past and have my stud wall flush with the block. So whenever I created my stud wall, I went through and had this right here as the outside core boundary. This is the inside core boundary, and then all of this, so whenever I was dimensioning, everything was dimensioned to the blue line. So I want to do the same thing and have these lined up whenever I'm working with my foundation plan. So in Revit, my foundation plan, I'm just going to click on this and kind of see what I have. So right now I'm actually selecting my exterior garage walls. So there's some different things that I would have to do to get this to look exactly how I want it to within our view range. So before I do anything, I'm going to make sure that I don't have an underlay turned on. And then I'm going to take a look at this from a elevation view so I can kind of see where the foundation is and where the first floor is. So my problem is my floor level is going to be down here with my slab, and my foundation actually comes up past the first floor level. This is really a pretty unique situation. This rarely happens. Usually the foundation would be somewhere in between or underneath the first floor. That only makes sense. So whenever it comes to how I'm going to see this, it's just going to look goofy because it's up above the first floor. So I'm going to try to just deal with it and see how that goes. I'll go back to my first floor plan, and what I want to do is I want to create my wall. So I'm just going to come up here to architectural walls, and I'm going to see if I have something that's similar to a CMU wall. So right here I have exterior CMU insulated. I have generic 6-inch masonry. So that's pretty close. I have a generic 8-inch masonry and then a generic 12-inch masonry. So there's no generic 10. So the first thing I need to do is I need to double check my project criteria to make sure what I have is for what I need for my masonry. I think I'm going to use 8-inch CMUs. So whenever I open my project criteria and I look at this, I can see that I have a 40-inch deep 8-inch CMU foundation on top of an 8x16 concrete footing. So I'll just go back to my plan view, and I'm going to choose the generic 8-inch masonry wall, and I'm going to edit this, and I'm going to look at the structure. Before I do that, I'm just going to call this, I'm going to call it 8-inch CMU with parge. So we're going to parge our CMUs afterwards on the exterior to help waterproof them, and more so in this case, since we don't have a basement that we're concerned with water getting in, we're going to do it for an appearance purpose as well, make it look better. So I'm going to edit this. I'm going to leave everything in the core boundary. On the exterior side, I'm going to add a finish, and for my material, I'm going to choose something that looks like a poured concrete or something like that. Let's see, concrete lightweight. So we could go with something like that for now, just to get that look of basically of the parge. And we'll leave it at that for right now. So I say okay, and I want the parge thickness to be about 1/4 of an inch. For that to be realistic, I could make it 3/8, and that way we end up with the actual 8-inch. So 0.375, we'll just make it. I don't think it would really be that thick in real life, but we'll see what that does. So now I have an 8-inch thick wall. It's my 8-inch CMU with parge. I'm going to say OK. And whenever I do this, I can align this with existing walls. So I want the location line rather be the center line. I don't want to line it over the center, because basically I would end up with something that looked like this. Do a real quick section just so you can see this. I would end up with something that looks like that right there. So I don't want to do that. It looks like I have some other issues going on there too, so I need to pay attention to my properties. And I'll delete that. So I'm going to again choose my wall, and my base constraint, where this starts, isn't going to be foundation. It's going to be my top of footing. And then my top constraint is going to be foundation. And you can see the unconnected height, I can't change this. It is 3'4" or 40 inches, so we have a 40-inch, 8-inch, 40-inch deep, 8-inch wide foundation. So I'm going to start, and I could offset this if I need to, and I'm going to do a couple other things. I'm going to bump up my scale, and I'm also going to change my detail level to fine, so I can kind of pick the lines that I want to go with. So I'm going to start right here on the end point of this line. Yeah, that's not even close. Okay, so I didn't change the wall center line, so I'm going to line up core face exterior, which would be that one, and I'm going to do this. I'm just going to throw a little piece in there, and it's giving me an error because I'm in a view that it looks a little bit goofy on. I'm just going to ignore that. I'm going to come in here, cut a section, and I'm going to come in here and take a closer look at it. So that foundation wall was supposed to go, the base constraint wasn't foundation, so that must have got flipped back. It's supposed to be top of footing up to foundation. So I was getting my error. And eventually I'll have to come in and change this wall to sit on top of the foundation rather than on the first floor. I could do that right now. So I'm going to have, and we'll do that in a different place actually. Alright, so that is my foundation wall, and I'm just going to go back to my first floor. I'm going to hover over top of an exterior wall. I'm going to hit tab, and then I'm going to left click my mouse to select all those walls at once. And instead of the base constraint being first floor, I'm going to have it be foundation. And I'm going to select off of that. And then once again, I'm going to go look at this, and you can see how that lines up now. So what would happen is this piece of OSB would actually stretch down past here, and this piece of, or this parge would actually be down below here. So if I'm really concerned, if I'm going to show this section in great detail, what I can do is I can click this wall, I can edit my type, I edit the structure, and then in here I can click this preview button down here on the lower left, and this is going to show me the plan view preview. I'm going to change it to section. I'm going to zoom into the bottom like this. I'm going to click the modify button, and what I can see is that if I select this part, that's locked, and I can select this and it's locked. So it has two different pieces here to it, two different parts of the wall, and those correspond to these materials and the functions. So this one outside that represents the parge, I'm going to click this little, and I think it disappeared. I'm going to click this little padlock. I have to get right on it. It doesn't work. One more time, try it again. Oh, there we go. Now it's unlocked. And I say OK. And I say OK again. And now what I can do whenever I select this, I chose the bottom one. So I could stretch that down. So not thinking, I chose the bottom one. So now I'm going to need to go in and do the same thing again and choose the top one. So I'm going to edit this wall, edit the structure, zoom in, click on modify, click on this top, get my little padlock to show up, uncheck it, say OK, OK again, and now I can pull this down like that. Then I have to do the same thing with this one. So I'm going to, this is the bottom of the wall, so I'm going to edit that type, edit that, zoom in to the bottom of the wall, click modify, click that, uncheck it, click that part, uncheck it, say OK, OK. Now I can come out here whenever I select this, I get an arrow, and I'm going to use my align tool right there. I'm going to align to that line, that. I'll just lock that in place like that. So that's what I end up with for that wall. So it's a lot of work to go through and do this foundation. And whenever I look at this, I'm going to have more work to make this look how I want it to look. I'm going to change the scale back here so that we can see what we're working with. And right now, the problem is I can't even see the foundation. All I can see are those walls above. So maybe I make this foundation wall on top of footing layer instead. So now you can see that foundation right there, but you have this wall over top of it.